Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Blanca Quintero, and I'm an assistant United States attorney in San Diego and a board member and treasurer of the Women of Color in Law. This is the fourth session in the ramp up to the Judicial Diversity Summit, and the topic today is From the Cafeteria to the Courtroom, Creating the Pathway for Tomorrow's Legal Professional. In California, the legal profession and judiciary fall short of reflecting the state's racial and ethnic demographic makeup. While people of color represent nearly 2/3 of California's population, they are underrepresented in law school as attorneys and as judges. For instance, in 2018, people of color made up 47% of California's law students. But in 2017, only about 12.7% of all California active attorneys and only about 27.6% of judges identified as a person of color. Because of these dire statistics, more than ever, K through 12 pipeline programs are vital to increasing the diversity of the legal profession and creating a judiciary that reflects the diversity of California. It is through K through 12 pipeline programs that underrepresented communities will learn of the path available to them in the legal profession, including the judiciary. Today, we have incredible panelists to speak with us who are very involved in these critical pipeline programs. And I want to take just a few minutes to introduce each of them. First, it's Judge Elizabeth Macias. She is the first in her family to graduate from college. In 2012, Judge Macias was appointed by Governor Brown to the California Superior Court. She is the third Latina judge appointed to serve Orange County, and within 3 years of her appointment, she was assigned as supervisor of the Central Justice Misdemeanor Criminal Panel. And in 2018, Judge Macias became the first Latina appointed to serve on the court's felony trial panel, where she sits today. In addition to her responsibilities as a trial judge, Judge Macias is serving her second term as president of the California Latino Judges Association. She is a founding member and chair of the California Affinity Judges Association Coalition, a founding member and vice president of the Orange County Association of Affinity Judicial Officers, and chair of the Orange County Superior Court's Judicial Outreach Committee. Next, we have Judge Linda Colfax. Judge Colfax, her, is in her 11th year on the San Francisco Superior Court. She has presided over criminal and civil trials, family law matters, juvenile dependency and juvenile justice, and currently she supervises the felony preliminary hearings courts. Judge Colfax is also a current vice president of the California Judges Association, the co-chair of CJA's task force on the elimination of bias and inequality, and the co-chair of the LGBT Judicial Officers of California, and an active member of her court's outreach and equity, fairness, and inclusion committees. Then we have Judge Robert Sanchez Defoe. Judge Defoe serves on the Los Angeles County Superior Court, where he is assigned to the Family Law Division. Before being appointed by Governor Newsom, he worked as a deputy district attorney prosecuting crimes against vulnerable victims. He is a former member of the board of directors of the LGBT plus Lawyers Association of Los Angeles and is currently a member of his court's Diversity and Inclusion Committee. Next, we have Judge Robert Byrdsong. Judge Birdsong is a proud graduate of Morehouse College and classmate of Senator Raphael Warnock from Georgia and Vanderbilt University Law School. He is the current co-chair of the task force on the elimination of bias and inequality and the incoming president of the California Judges Association, one of the largest judges groups in the country. Judge Birdsong has an independent calendar assignment in civil unlimited jurisdiction. And lastly, I want to introduce my co-moderator, Tristan Higgins. Tristan has been an attorney for 24 years and has been dedicated to equity and representation her entire life. She worked as a prosecutor, a union attorney, an entertainment attorney, and spent a decade with Sony Electronics doing international entertainment and high-tech transactions and high-value deals. Now, she helps organizations develop a workplace where employees feel like they belong. Thank you to all of the judges for being here today. Now I want to pass it over to Tristan.
Thank you so much. As Blanca said, I am Tristan Higgins. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I am ecstatic to be here today with my co-moderator and with these four amazing judges who are so passionate about diversity and inclusion in the judiciary. Today, we're going to talk about three things. We're going to talk about the amazing efforts that are already being made statewide to reach kids as early as kindergarten and help to create a more diverse field of students going into the profession who then can become judges. We are going to talk about some of the obstacles that those efforts face. And then lastly, we're going to talk about solutions. And hopefully, if Blanca and I can keep things moving, we'll have some time for questions. But if not, we'll find a way to answer questions later. I'm so excited to start off with you, Judge Colfax. Can you please tell us about the kinds of programs that are working to reach kids as young as kindergarten through 5th grade? And as is necessary in every Zoom call, I have to tell you that you're muted. I love it. I love to get that out of the way right away. So thank you for being that person, Your Honor.
Yeah, I'm glad to be able to set the example on that. Again, my name is Linda Colfax. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a Superior Court judge in San Francisco. And I am really thankful to be here with this inspiring group of people, all who care intensely about bringing diversity to our bench, inspiring our next generation of attorneys and bench officers, and making civics education come alive in the classroom. So the age I am discussing is kindergarten to 5th grade, which may seem like the most difficult and least important age group, but I would like to encourage a different thinking in that regard. Young kids love to have visitors in their classrooms, whether it be live or over Zoom. The cynicism that comes with adolescence and maturity hasn't seeped in yet at this age, and they can be motivated and captive audiences who aren't afraid to ask questions. Further, when you reach a kid and have an influence on them at a young age, it can have a lasting and positive impact. And then the goals at this age tend to be more concrete. So what do we want to do when we go in to talk to kids K through 5th grade? We want to teach them about the judiciary, what our role and what our job is. We want to show them that not all judges are the same. We come from all different kinds of backgrounds. We all look different. We all have different paths that led us to where we are today. And we want to plant a seed of interest and inspiration for them. So the question is then, how do we get into the classrooms to make this happen? And I want to start with a fabulous program that is already up and running. The Judicial Council has a robust existing program called Judges in the Classroom. We're going to put a link to into the chat right now, and you can go visit it to see what they have to offer and see how easy it is to volunteer. When you go there, you'll see that there's a link for judges. You just press it. First, it tells you about the program. It tells you what the program does, and it gives you a link if you're a bench officer to click to volunteer. Likewise, there's a link for a teacher. So if you know any teachers, the teacher can go to that same site, click the link for the teacher to volunteer or to volunteer for their school if it's an administrator. As you look through the site, they already also have established curricula, which is age appropriate and engaging. We also have another link that we'll put in the chat that is an example of a curriculum that I used when I taught a class in 2020. And then the final thing is they do the work to match you to a school. They make every effort to match you to a school in your own county. And sometimes, often that works. Sometimes they're going to need a volunteer to go to another county that doesn't have current judicial volunteers. And that's also something I did last year. And it was tremendous. Outside of the Judicial Council's Judges in the Classroom program, various courts and bar associations around the state have established ways to get involved. So I also encourage you to ask your court administrator or colleagues about what already does exist. You may find that your county has just started something that interests you, or maybe that it used to do something, but it's become inactive and you can kind of resurrect it, or that no program has existed before and you have kind of a clean slate to develop something. So here are some ideas that have worked for me and colleagues with whom I've spoken around the state. One thing is, if you personally have or have had a school-aged child, reach out to their principal, head of school, teachers each year and offer to visit or have a colleague visit. Also reach out to them to share the Judges in the Classroom link with them so that they can sign up and be matched for a specific curriculum. Ask your friends who have school-age kids for an introductory email to teachers or administrators, so you can reach out to educators in those schools as well. Talk up your efforts. When you've gone and done something and it's been good, talk to your colleagues about it to get more of them interested and involved. And then ask the teachers or administrators whose classrooms and schools you go into to also talk up the experience with their peers and colleagues with the goal of reaching more classrooms. And to this point, I think it's also really important to invite the teachers and the administrators to reach out to you. Share your contact information, because I don't think it's necessarily a natural thought for a teacher to follow up and reach out to a bench officer. So give them that permission so that they know this is a continuing relationship. And then finally, think about planning a visit centered around a particular day or curriculum. So it could be Constitution Day, it could be part of a career day in that school, or a civics day. And then as you're doing this outreach, be patient and persistent. Schools, particularly public schools, as we all know, are under-resourced and overworked. My wife runs a therapeutic high school, and so I know that it might take several times. Maybe the first 4 voicemails you left didn't work, so try an email instead. Don't take it personally. Just think about different ways to reach that person, or maybe a different person from that school, maybe a better person to try to reach out to. They also might not have the bandwidth this week or this month or even this semester, but it doesn't mean they're not interested. So keep trying. And then finally, keep in mind that it is still mostly a grassroots effort, and it relies on your individual motivation and labor. And the hope is eventually it will become something that is systemic and institutionalized, where we get into the schools and show kids K through 5 and K through college how diverse we are, and to motivate them and inspire them. But right now we need you to keep working at it. So those are my thoughts for now, and I'll jump in at a later time. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Judge Sanchez Dufour, I want to come over to you and talk about the sort of next group of students, the middle schoolers, middle school, everybody's least favorite time in school. Can you tell us about, at least mine, can you tell us about the efforts that are being made to reach kids in that age group, as well as other programs that you're familiar with?
Yeah, absolutely. And what a difficult sometimes age group, but I think you have the opportunity to make the biggest impact with them too. And that cynicism that Judge Colfax is saying hasn't set in has definitely set in a lot of times by the time they get to middle school. But these kids are developing a sense of self, and they're continuing to evolve their sense of in-group and out-group, and who is part of their group, and how do they treat people who were different than they are. So it's a wonderful opportunity to help them see themselves in a good light, to be able to see that they can go on to great things, and also help them to see that how they can treat others to help them have a better future too. It's actually a group that I've spent a lot of time with. Before I was appointed to the bench as a district attorney for 10 years, I volunteered with one of the programs that I'm going to be talking about. And I'm cheating a little bit here and going into Judge Colfax's group in that it's mostly aimed towards fifth graders. I'm doing 6 through 8, but it's close enough, which is Project Lead. So for 10 years, I was a facilitator with Project Lead, and I've chosen 2 different programs to talk about. One's Project Lead, and the other one, Project Lead, is very involved. It has a very big time commitment. So that might not be something that every judge has the ability to do, but there are ways to get involved with Project Lead. And then I also want to talk about Courtroom to Classroom, which is much less time that needs to be spent each week with the kids. So Project Lead is a program that's run by the Constitutional Rights Foundation, which you spend an entire school year with the same group of students in 5th grade. You go in once a week for an hour. And again, I realize that probably most judicial officers do not have an hour to travel to a school to facilitate every week for an entire school year. But there are activities within the program that are definitely suited towards judicial officers. The program itself, you have usually lawyers, sometimes it's law enforcement, it could be a judge who goes into the classroom, and you get to know these kids. You develop a relationship with them over the course of a school year. And the program has pre-developed activities for you to go in, and there's different topics each week, ranging everywhere from education to the importance of staying out of the juvenile justice system, to avoiding drug use, all sorts of topics. But there's also a mock trial during the program. And this would be a wonderful opportunity to have a real judge, and a judge that may look like them, somebody who comes from the same background that they do. To have them sit and preside over this mock trial is wonderful. And the program is aimed towards mostly socioeconomically disadvantaged, largely immigrant schools. With the program that I spent, I'm half Mexican American. I was talking to the kids who were 99% of them were Latino. So it was wonderful to see that. And also, I don't really know. I'm part of the LGBT community. I don't know how many LGBT kids that I spoke to, but I think being able to see an LGBT judge in front of them, if there were kids out there, I think that must have been very hopeful to them too. At least that's my hope. And the lessons that you teach during these programs, I think, are important, but the biggest thing is to just develop the relationship with the kids. I don't know whether the teacher is correct in her assessment. I don't have the statistics behind it, but one of the teachers that I worked with throughout the school year told me, invited me to their graduation and said, it's really important for these families because a lot of them, this is the only graduation that they're ever going to have. And I hope that they're wrong. But I also hope that I was able to inspire them to be able to think that they can achieve more, that they can go on and they can be a lawyer or a judge or a doctor someday. And also, as a member of the LGBT community, so something particular to our group, there often isn't a community to go back to when you're very young. That most of us didn't grow up with LGBT parents, and most kids, maybe it's changed, I don't know, maybe there are more out kids at this point in middle school, but at least when I was going, there wasn't. So to see somebody who has a similar background to you, I'm hoping that is very inspiring to them. So the other program that I'd like to talk about is Courtroom to Classroom. And this is where judges, is specifically aimed towards judges and attorneys. They go into middle school classrooms, and the goal is teaching them about the Constitution and engaging them through the content through a moot court activity. So this is much less involved, but it's great for a judicial officer who wants to get into the classroom to inspire these kids, but at the same time might not have an hour each week over the whole school year. So here, again, they have pre-made programs for you to use. There's PowerPoint presentations, and you go in, you talk to the kids, and it takes about 45 minutes in the classroom. Obviously, you need to do a little prep beforehand. But I chose these 2 programs because all of us are very busy, and we may not have a lot of time to dedicate, but each of these programs are already set up. They're available to you. They should be available in your community. All of the material that you need is there, and they'll even help you to match you with teachers who may be interested in these programs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Judge Sanchez Dufour. I think that, if the judge out there who has a fifth grader, then that might be a fantastic opportunity, right, to be in their classroom every week and keeping an eye on them, as it were. Let's come over to you, Judge Macias, and have you tell us, please, about the exciting things that are already being done statewide for high school students.
Thank you. First of all, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to all of you regarding the work that's being done K through 12, because I think it is extremely important. And I appreciate what Judge Colfax and what Judge Sanchez Dufour have discussed, because they're right. It is incredibly important that we be reaching our students before they get to high school, because I really do think that the basic skills that they need to be able to succeed in high school and to be able to succeed in college begin at the K through middle school level. We want to make sure that they understand that they're capable of greatness, that they should dream big, and that means that they need to show up to school. That means that they need to invest in their education and study and read and write and do all of the things that will give them the skills necessary so that we can build on that when we have them at the high school level. So in terms of what's happening at the high school level, we've got a lot of really incredible programs throughout California. I want to first focus on, what you can do locally. I think locally we need to start thinking about Career Day, which obviously has already been touched upon, so I'm not going to elaborate. But one of the important aspects is school tours. We need to be reaching out to our local schools and inviting them to come to our courthouses, have them observe the courtrooms, and have them spend time with a judicial officer that they've been able to observe. We do that here in Orange County, and I know that other courthouses and other counties do that as well. So if you want information, please reach out to us. One of the other aspects of a tour is that you can have a presentation. So schedule it also so that they can stay with you for the lunch hour. And they bring their, a sack lunch, and you can bring a number of judges, and those judges will talk about their journey to the bench. That too resonates with students. I've been able to do that through the California Latino Judges Association, and I've also been able to do it with other judges who are not members of the Latinx community, depending on the community of students that are visiting us. So that's another thing that you can think about. Also, the Legal Studies Academies. One of the wonderful things that we've been seeing throughout California is that we have more counties invested in creating legal studies academies. And this is a result of the work that's being done with the with the Constitutional Rights Foundation, which can be from various counties. And they have the mock trial as well as peer court programs. But, again, the Legal Studies Academies, these are programs where there's, it's the 2+2+3, which is 2 years of investment at the high school level. If you're not able to get yourself into a UC, which you do get preferential admissions, you go to a community college, and then you go on to a UC, and you could get preferential admissions into a law school. So those are really exciting programs available through the California Bar. So again, that's something to consider. In terms of, what other courts are doing, if you're looking for something exciting to bring into your courthouse, look at what other courts are doing. I've turned to Los Angeles. I've wanted to, in Orange County, as the chair of our outreach committee, look at exciting programs that I can bring in and I don't have to reinvent the wheel. So Los Angeles has amazing programs like their Power Lunch, where they bring in students and they have lunch with judicial officers, interpreters, court staff administrators, and they learn about the various careers within the courthouse. They have the Youth Civics Leadership Conference, which is a half-a-day program, and I've been able to both sit and go to LA County and observe that conference and then bring it to Orange County. So if any of you are interested, please reach out, because that's been an incredibly successful program. And also you can look to Judicial Council. Judge Colfax talked about the judges in the classroom. It also extends to high schools. The 19th Amendment presentation. There's now a presentation for the Cesar Chavez. So if you are interested in looking at what you can bring to your county, again, I invite you to reach out to us. I don't want to go into great detail because I know that there's so much more that we can talk about. And I think, particularly we want to discuss some of the barriers that we've encountered along the way. But that's just, a small sample. I think before I give up my time, though, I do want to say that the California Judges Association also has incredible programs. The Judicial Independence Essay Contest. Not only are they able to write about something exciting, but they're able to potentially win a significant amount of money as they go off to college. And the same happens with the Ninth Circuit Essay Writing Contest.
Thank you so much, Judge Macias. Given how many resources there are, is there a website that people could go to find some of these programs that you just talked about? I can't remember. Did you just gather them all? Is there something people can look at later?
They can look at Judicial Council, but they can also look at the various counties. I would invite them to look at Los Angeles County. I would invite them to look at Orange County. We're rolling out our outreach website actually this month, and that'll give them some ideas. And they can also obviously reach out to us, either the Affinity Judge Associations, the California Latino Judges Association, and the California Judges Association.
Thank you so much, Your Honor. Let's go over to Judge Birdsong. And Judge Birdsong, you're going to talk to us, please, about what's working for college students and maybe even a little bit law school candidates. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Tristan. Thanks for everybody for all your comments. And there's considerable overlap. I think one thing you can see what's a good common theme is when people get a chance to break bread. When you're talking about having these lunches where you get to sit down with the students and have that chance to really interact with them. So some of the things that are happening at the college level, like for example at Morehouse, they invite law schools to come to the campus. And so similar to on-campus interviews that they have at law schools where employers would come in, law firms would come in to interview students, law schools do the same thing where they get to show their wares. And when you go into an environment similar to a Morehouse where you have basically all minorities, this is an opportunity to have them introduced to the law school environments. The Brown Bag series, I think that's something as you can do at almost any level because one, it's not as formal, it's less threatening, and it's where you get a chance to really get to interact. And even at the college level, some of us, like myself, wanted to be a lawyer when I was in the first grade. So I didn't have that problem. But other people who may not have figured it out, this is a good chance at the college level to speak with judges, to speak with lawyers when they get together in the Brown Bag series. There's no agenda per se, but it's really about opening up. Hey, so what do you think about a career in law? What do you think lawyers do? And you'd be surprised how many people haven't given that type of thought into the profession. They see things on TV, LA Law or the Paper Chase, and then they think, okay, yeah, I can do this. But it's important to actually talk to people who are doing it on a day-to-day basis, boots on the ground, if you will. And that's very, very important. And that's an easy thing to do, and it's really not any cost, just setting up an area where you can sit down and talk. Another thing that is established, UCLA has an awesome mock trial competition. And that's where the college students, they come in and they're given these materials. And I think you all already heard other mock trial programs on different levels, similar thing, but they work up a problem and they get a chance to argue. And what I really enjoy, because I've judged some of those competitions, is after we have the presentations, then we have the feedback. And that's when we really can talk to them and further inspire them about their trajectory in terms of, okay, by doing this mock trial, is this something that they really want to do? And hopefully they can translate that into going to law school. They love the feedback. And of course, again, the idea of seeing someone who looks like them or someone who looks different than them. I don't want that to get lost. There's something that's very, very empowering to a young Black boy looking at me, but there's also something very empowering about seeing a white man look at me and being in my position. So there's a lot of value that our community, our society gets from seeing diverse faces, from seeing diverse perspectives. The other thing that my alma mater is doing in terms of at Vanderbilt, we have an interview program wherein people who are applying to law school, they actually get to talk to and interview me as an alumni to give them the skinny, the behind the scenes type of experience of what happens in law school. They get to ask questions, what's it like in your first year? What does it mean when they say think like a lawyer? And what type of classes am I able to talk? And we can talk about that. And again, that's kind of from a picture of the slide of an interview that I've done. And it's really, really helpful for them, I think, because again, before they get into the law school environment, they can ask questions. They can really try to have an appreciation for what it is they're doing. I think it's our job as lawyers and judges to demystify the process, demystify the profession. It's an awesome profession. It's a wonderful profession. And if you go into it with the right perspective, with the right type of due diligence / do your homework to understand what you're getting into, it's going to be great. Where I think we're failing, we're not having that ongoing discussion about the profession and what it means. And so then people have unrealistic expectations or just don't have any expectations at all. And they figure that they'll figure it out once they get there. So all of these programs that we've discussed, I think, can help demystify what's happening and give them something to shoot for. They'll be more prepared. They'll be more familiar. That's another thing in terms of being familiar with what's going on. I always found it awesome how we would have students, I'm first generation law, and some of my classmates were third generation law. So they obviously had, quite an advantage to that. So when we do these programs and as they're coming up through the pathway and the pipeline, once they do get to law school, they will have those types of advantages as well.
Judge Birdsong, it's really inspiring. I know one of the things that shocked me as a relatively privileged, very privileged white person was learning that many students of color do not have the ability to take a bar prep class, right? They can't afford it. And so it's just such a good education for those of us that aren't in those communities to be reminded that these programs are so necessary. Blanca, please take it away. Let's talk about a little bit about obstacles.
Yes.
Yay.
Yes, of course. Let's talk about that. So now with all of these programs, one wonders, why do we need to keep focusing on this, right? Are these programs successful? Are they adopted by many? Are they accessible? So let's talk about some of those areas of difficulty. First, I want to turn to you, Judge Macias. Will you tell us about the first area of difficulty? And what I mean by that being communication with these schools.
Thank you. And I think that it's really important that people understand that when you decide to do outreach, that you should not be discouraged if you aren't met with immediate enthusiasm or cooperation by those that you reach out to. We're laying the groundwork. I think that for a very long time, the judiciary, and even the legal community, we really weren't making ourselves available to, K through 12. We weren't making ourselves available to elementary, junior high, or now they call them middle school and high schools. And so when they hear from us, they have no idea what it is that we're offering. They have no idea why it is that we're offering it. And they have no idea how it's going to impact their student population. And so we need to make sure that we reach out, and that when we do, we try to explain what it is that we bring, that when we do get that opportunity, that we show up, and that we do what we promised that we would do, and that we follow up, and that if we get an audience, that we're able to, garner enthusiasm from them to then get the word out. And it really does take off, but it takes time. And I can tell you from my work that, it takes one teacher that will then, talk to other teachers. It takes one principal that will talk to other principals. It takes one school board member that will talk to other school board members. But the process can be frustrating. The process can be difficult. And I think that if if you're going to throw your hands up at the first challenge that you meet, you probably won't be met with success. It takes time. And so I think it's really important that people understand that just because you're a lawyer, that just because you're a judge, that when you reach out to someone, they're not necessarily going to answer your phone call. They're not necessarily going to respond to your email, but that persistence is key. And I think it's also really important that, the legal community and that judges understand that, it does take time. And that means that, sometimes we have to carve out time early in the morning, that we have to carve out time during the lunch hour, that we have to carve out time, after hours, to be able to continue to have that open line of communication with principals, teachers, school board members, and to build a level of confidence that they can turn to you, and that you are going to in turn answer the call and do what you promised that you would do. And I think, when they see the level of success that they gain as a result of having us engage their student body, then it becomes that much easier. But it's work, no doubt about that.
So time and persistence, very important, very key, right? Thank you very much, Judge Macias. Now, Judge Colfax, what is the other area of difficulty that you would like to make us aware of and discuss?
I did it again. I didn't even learn from the first time. Another area of difficulty, and I think someone actually put in the chat a great idea as related to this, is thinking outside the box in terms of reaching kids. It's not necessarily always going to happen through the schools. Someone suggested reaching out to Girl Scouts or Boy Scout troops. Likewise, after school programs that are in York County. And also within each particular school, for example, with the LGBT community, you can reach out to their affinity group if there is one at the school, and reach out to the other affinity groups if they exist. Usually those don't exist until middle school or high school, so it doesn't apply quite as much K through 5. And then finally, with regard to the LGBT community, also looking at if you have a LGBT center in York County or a shelter, because a lot of queer kids have housing instability, and they might be going to school, but they might be hard to reach in the schools because they might not be out there. And so finding them in other places. really trying to think outside the box to reach as many kids as possible.
Thank you, Judge Colfax. Now I want to pass it over to Tristan to address the solutions to some of these obstacles, following along the lines of what Judge Colfax was talking about.
Thanks, Blanca. Solutions, right? Everybody's favorite part. And I think the first thing is important to note that as attorneys and judicial officers, there's a whole lot of things that we can't address in this regard. You know, food security, housing stability, things like that, that really are so basic to people being able to be successful. But with regard to the things that we can impact, I'd like to ask you, Judge Byrdsong, to share with us some of your thoughts on solutions, and then maybe we'll open it up for others of us, our panelists, to share with us.
Very good. I believe some of our panelists have already touched on. Background looks a little different. Okay, to touch on some of the things that have already been said about following through and following up. And once that contact is made, that contact usually will stay in their minds for a long time. But if they just have that image, which is important in and of itself, what do we do to follow up on that? So you have another visit, you have another contact, and I've always invited people. I give them my cell phone number, I give them my email, my work email, my personal email, and I have to make myself available. Yes, it is incumbent upon those of us who are committed and investing in our future, investing in the next generation, that we have to follow up and follow through. So whether that you set a schedule where you do it once a month, you do it once a quarter, it's advisable to not just have the one and done. Okay, we've met, I've done my good deed for the day, I feel good, give me the community service award deal, then I'll go back to my regular routine. No, that's not how it works, because when you see the development and as they go from the next deal, I mean, for example, one of my mentees who I connected with as a junior in high school, she's now a sophomore at Howard University. Then she talks to me and consults with me about her class selection, and I give her advice about that. And we talk about the courses that she's going to need, which will give her a great foundation for when she goes into law school. Likewise, another one of my mentees, of course, this was a mentee who I met at UCLA. She's at Howard Law School, and she's going to be externing with me this summer/fall. And again, this is based on having these programs where we're going to the schools and we're talking and we're connecting. And guess what? We're still working together. We're still growing. And I have every expectation that when these mentees pass the bar, I'll be the one to swear them in. And heaven help me if I live long enough. If they go on to become bench officers, I'll swear them in to be bench officers as well. But it's something that's sustained. And I really can't script that. I can advise you that that's how we get it done, and you have to be committed. The other thing that is important, and I think Judge Macias touched on this in terms of and Judge Colfax as well, allowing people to know that it's okay to reach out, that we want to hear from you. And so when we give out our numbers and give out our emails, use them. And make sure when they contact you that you do respond, let them know like, hey, it's good to hear from you again. What's going on? And another way to kind of keep that going, give them an assignment, give them something to think about, a thing that I'm constantly doing. I'm throwing my stuff out there, and that's fine. Feel free to bite anything that I'm sharing with you. The 4-Day Laws of Power by Robert Greene, an incredible book. I think every single lawyer and probably every single judge needs to read that book and understand those laws and how they interact with how we do our profession. We're talking about influence, we're talking about persuasion, right? So I will invite the people who are in my circle to go through the laws. And then we'll talk about which laws resonate with them, which laws they connect with, and then we try to apply it to some other application. So these are the types of things I think are necessary to make the connection have some meaning, have some application to the connection, and then we take that to the next level.
Thank you, Judge Birdsong. We have a couple of minutes, so before we get to questions, I just want to invite Judge Macias and Colfax and Sanchez Defoe. If you have any other comments about solutions, please share them with us.
I wanted to add a couple of things, but I'll limit it to one for now. I think it's really important that when you do outreach, that you communicate to whomever you're outreaching to the fact that you care, the fact that you're doing the work that you do because the students that you're reaching out to matter, and I think that whether it's a kindergarten, elementary, middle school, high school, and even beyond, we recognize, and I appreciate your having said this, Tristan, that we have a lot of students, particularly in our communities of color, that are struggling with a lot of different issues, food insecurity, housing insecurity, things that are happening in their home that they have absolutely no control over. So, it's important that when we do have these students, that we let them know that they're in a safe space, and that even though we are judges, that there is zero judgment from us, that we come from a place of wanting to help, and whatever that looks like at that moment. It may not be talking about the law. It may not be talking about the work that we do. It may just be as basic as letting them know that, as people who have grown up in those communities, that have gone on to higher education, that we believe in them. And so that's incredibly important, to let them know that we're invested in their growth and in their success.
And I want to.
I should have said, welcome back, Judge Sanchez Defoe. Judge Colfax, please go ahead.
I think another way of saying what we're all trying to say is it's really about building relationships with the schools, building the relationships with the teachers, building the relationships with these students that can last for years, decades. You can be part of their process of growing up. And I think it's also, we talked about how sometimes the schools or the teachers might not be responsive, and you have to be patient and persistent. You also have to be patient with yourself, because you might be going through a period of time where you're like, I'm drowning in my current life, whatever the life circumstances are. There's no way I can do this right now. And that happens. It happens to all of us. But always keep it in the back of your head that when you're ready to come back, the need will still be there. And your participation and assistance with this will still be appreciated, and everybody will be welcoming you with open arms to be back in it.
Thank you, Your Honor. Judge Birdsong, I see you have your hand up.
Thanks. I wanted to follow up on what Judge Colfax said, and this is also kind of anecdotal in terms of being patient and sticking with it. So when I was in law school, I was in this program called Buddies of Nashville, where I would go to the school in between classes, and I had a mentee, and it used to break my heart. These were elementary school students. My mother was a kindergarten teacher there, and so these were very younger kids. And what would break my heart, though, is when I would walk the halls, the kids would look at me as if I was like some type of circus act. I mean, you literally could see, wow. And admittedly, there's not many, handsome Black males walking around as adults in the school for them to be like, oh, okay, right? So I remember one day I was going, I've been going for months, and I was going to see my kid. And this lady was approaching, and she said, good morning. I said, good morning. And she said, do you need some help? I said, no, I'm fine. And then I kept walking. And then she stopped, and she came back, and And she started to question me like, so what are you doing here? And I looked at her like, I'm a friend of the school. Do you have a pass or an ID? It's like, ma'am, I've been coming here many months. I don't know why you bothered me, but I'm a friend of the school. So would you please let me go to my classroom? And then she's kind of just puffed off. Now, that kind of exchange, for some people, that might be like, well, I'm out of here. Here you are not appreciating. I'm trying to invest in these kids, and you give me a hard time because I guess, okay, this would be my supposition. You just haven't seen, Black adult males walking around in the school, and somehow that means I'm some type of threat. But I didn't. But, these are the types of things, I guess it's another panel, another discussion. These are the types of things that we face and see all the time. And you can't afford to get tired or be disenchanted because of that. In fact, you should be more encouraged that eventually, go back to my other example about, my presence doesn't just impact young Black boy who's going to grow up be like me. It's going to be that white male who hasn't maybe interacted with people of color, who may have been brainwashed by some silly media or movies. And now they need to get to see, wow, you know what? These people do contribute. These people aren't animals. They aren't lazy. They're not just trying to get over. So our presence is important everywhere we go. And I say this all the time. You have no idea who's watching you. This is for everybody listening. So it's incumbent upon you to be excellent all the time, because somebody's going to see what you're doing and they're going to be like, wow, okay, maybe I can do that too. Or maybe I would like to be like that based on what they're observing, what you're doing. So just keep that in mind.
Judge Birdsong, I think it may be the only time in my life I'm going to ask to interrupt you, a judge, if that's okay, Your Honor. I just wanted to see, Judge Sanchez Dufour, did you want to add anything on the solutions before we kick it over to Blanca with questions?
No, not this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And Judge Macias, did I see that you were trying to, you want to join in? I'd love to hear.
I wanted to add that I think, beyond presence, we can't all be, handsome and have the presence that Judge Birdsong has. But I think that entering with humility is really important. I think that, you have to remember that, be it an attorney or be it a judge, a lot of these kids really have no idea what it is that you do day in and day out and what you did to get there. And so you need to be able to enter with humility so that they're willing to hear what it is that you have to say, so that they can then understand that you care, so that then what you say can make, in fact, a difference in their life.
Thank you so much, Your Honor. Blanca, do you want to, we have some great questions in the chat. And also I want to encourage everyone to check the chat. There are some great resources that have been put in there by Lauren, who's our amazing program facilitator. Thank you, Blanca.
Sure, of course. Thank you, Tristan. One of the last questions we just got right now, we got several questions. For those people who are already mentoring or desire to be a mentor, if they're not particularly diverse themselves, what do you suggest about how they can best support diverse students, and those mentoring them, particularly students of color, students experiencing poverty, students who are disabled, just so that they're not perpetuating the status quo?
I'll take that. Having grown up in a school where I think it was always assumed that I didn't know enough, where it was always assumed that I was going to go to vocational school, where my teacher, when I was in college, I ran into and said, how are you doing? And how many kids do you have? Are you married? And how many kids do you have? And I had to respond to her, by saying, if you had seen Mary walk up to you right now, would you have asked her, are you married and how many kids do you have? I said, I suspect you would have asked her, what college are you attending? As a teacher, I think it's really important that you understand the impact that you have on your students and how you view them affects your students. And I think she was rather shocked to hear me say that, but it was important that she hear it. Teachers, irrespective of whether they are people of color or whether they grew up in those communities and understand those communities or not, need to understand that you cannot generalize, period. Everyone is different. There are subcultures within a culture. And so I think, what's most important is to be respectful, to, make certain that we let students know that we believe in their greatness, to give them an opportunity to learn and to constantly be challenging them in a respectful way, knowing that their lives, whatever is happening out in the community, does come with them to school. And if what they can do is provide a safe space of non-judgment and believing in their abilities to grow as people, I think that will go a long way, because I had a lot of teachers that told me that I couldn't.
Thank you, Judge Macias. The next question, Judge Birdsong or Judge Sanchez Defoe. We've talked a lot about different types of programs. Do any of these career programs bring up education financing at some point?
Not really. That probably is handled through a different source of networks. But however, if we're on top of our game, we should already know some of the information. So again, I bring it back to my alma mater. My class, the class of 91, we have a scholarship program set up. I know the band has a scholarship program set up. And my affiliation with the Langston Bar, Cable, California Association of Black Lawyers, and AAA CJO, all of those organizations have scholarship programs. So as I am mentoring, the people that I'm mentoring, I always pass on, hey, listen, you need to apply for this scholarship that Langston has over here. You need to apply for the scholarship that Cable has over here. So the programs themselves, I'm not really familiar, but I have access to other information, other resources to share on to my mentees. And that's something that we probably need to be a little more organized on as well.
Thank you very much, Judge Birdsong. Judge Colfax, can you talk a little bit about the importance of LGBTQ judges and visibility in this context?
So I do think it's important because it's still not safe in many communities and many families around the state to be out. And so us coming into the classroom or to the Boys and Girls Center or wherever we are making our outreach efforts as our authentic selves, I identify as queer, I identify as lesbian, and making sure that that is known and visible. And so that those who don't feel comfortable, safe being out can recognize, oh, all right, there is someone who I can go talk to. Or perhaps this person is coming and they're showing me places where I can be out and where it might feel safer. And so our visibility goes a long way in that regard. I don't know if Judge Sanchez Defoe has other thoughts on that.
I absolutely agree with you. And one thing everybody creates their own community as they age and they get older, but it's particularly important for our group in that, again, like I was saying before, most of us didn't grow up in a home with gay parents. Most of us don't know a lot of gay people when you're going to school. So seeing other not just gay, more inclusive LGBTQIA plus individuals, we are able to create our families and our communities as we get older. Sometimes that's limited in K through 12 and sometimes even into college. I'm glad to hear that that's changing. You know, sometimes I hear friends talking about their kids and how they're gossiping about how, you know, Jane and Donna broke up, and everybody's okay with it. So I think things are changing, but it's important for us to help them to build those communities and to know that there are other LGBTQ plus people out there who care about them and who are succeeding and who want to help them succeed also.
And I think the one other thing that I want to say on that point is it's also really important to build allies. So empower other people who aren't part of the LGBT community to make it safer for their LGBT friends and family members to be out.
Thank you, Judge Colfax and Judge Sanchez Defoe. Tristan, can you close it up for us?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Blanca. And I really appreciate everybody sharing your expertise with us today. I know that all of you need to get back to court right away. And so we want to just thank everybody for being here. This is the fourth session in the ramp up to the Judicial Diversity Summit, which is running 3 days in September, 14th, 21st, and 28th. And our next ramp up session will be on September 1st from 12 to 1. The topic is going to be increasing diversity in underrepresented courts, and it's going to be a fantastic program. And we hope that you will join us for that session as well. Sorry to the couple questions we didn't get to, but we really appreciate that contribution. Thank you, everybody, for being with us today.